it's a long weekend, and it's the last day of a long weekend. Friday was a public holiday. We had Saturday and Sunday just before we get into the hustle and bustle of the week. So welcome to Personal Finance Mastery, and I'm going to be sharing today. Okay, I wrote an article, yes, published it today, and I wanted it to serve like the structure under which these conversations we go on, because I think I realized that sometimes this thing is just taken as an afterthought. Why? What really made me to write that article was basically looking at workers there and saying, "Oh, what speaks to this day?" Yeah, a lot of people work. The reason why the vast majority of us work is because we want to survive, and that's the gospel truth. It may sound somehow, but that is it. A lot of people, if money wasn't an issue, won't do what they do today. Some people will probably do something different. Some people will probably pick another totally different career path. So a vast majority of people are in what they do today because they need money to survive. So I just thought about, talking about this. Of course, we had planned this earlier, but it kind of set the direction for what the conversation is going to be like. And I also committed myself, I know with the help of Mutupe and Steven, to write 4 articles this month. Probably even do additional voice note to give context to those things. Yeah, this will be the only session we'll have this month, except something radical changes. But with the help of Modupe and Steven, I'll try to, apart from uh, the writings, probably put some voice notes that will give some context to it. So you already have an idea of what we want to look at today. So, and let me just run deep into it as quickly as possible. So we're talking about financial freedom because, and of course, Modupe already did a bit of intro, uh, and differentiating. One of the reasons why I give myself to what we're doing at the Personal Finance Mastery is because I realized that honestly, it's always easier to tell younger people about this. Some of these things we teach around money, I realize that it's better for the younger audience. And you say, also, what do you mean by it's better for the younger audience? Is it that the older audience can't gain from it? No, the older audience can gain from it. But I realize that sometimes it's a process. So because it's a process, it's easier for people who have committed themselves to it. Time helps it. One challenge I've seen with a lot of people is that most of the things that we teach around uh, managing finances, financial freedom, when people begin to learn it when they are already under a lot of financial pressure, it's honestly tougher to implement because the bills are already looking at you in the face. One privilege I got was to have been exposed to this thing while I was in university. Because I was exposed to it while I was in university, I was exposed to it before I started having the financial pressures, before I was married, before I had to pay school fees. You understand? So it helped me to pace implementing these things because I've also come to see that when people have to implement this in their 40s, in their mid 40s, in their 50s, it's actually tougher. But like that Chinese proverb says that the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago because now you need the sunshade. But it says the next best time is now. You understand? So you just have to get on it. So that's it. So we'll just look at what are the critical things. There are a number of things people need to understand when it comes to money. One of the things I've realized that a lot of times we are committed to working, trying to survive, trying to get a living. But the principles, please, you can help me mute that person that's getting a background. The principles that people need to move ahead financially a lot, requires a different kind of learning. You know, mastery, and that's why we call it personal finance mastery, because it's a mastery you have to achieve. It won't come to you, it will just appear, it won't just happen to you. And it's interesting because a lot of us just expect that I'm just going to go to school, get a degree, start working, and um everything will just work. You understand? Everything will just work like that. Whereas you realize that it doesn't just work like that. You need to gain mastery in money, because if you don't gain mastery in money, and you leave it to chance, the chances that it's going to go in your direction is actually very slim. And that's the honest truth. Because there are some principles that we don't know we violate daily. When you violate those principles daily, it accumulates. Because it's principles based, it accumulates. So whether you're making those right decisions or making the wrong decisions, it kind of just accumulates over a period of time. So, and a number of times I also try to explain this, that some of these principles are basically for people who are not, you're not a nepo baby, you're not inheriting wealth. It might be different from people that are inheriting wealth, because they don't have to go through the accumulation phase. They've just already acquired, they inherited a lot of money. So they just basically need to managing wealth. But we're talking about somebody from a typical background who has not inherited or who needs to build. You understand? You are a young professional. The basic thing you have is probably a skill or an education. You are starting life basically on two things: your skill or your education. And you're saying, how do I build wealth? So that I just put that context in place so that you understand my audience. So in case somebody is saying, someone I inherited $500,000, like they said $1 million from my parents, you may not necessarily be. Please, if you can mute people as they are joining, please. Very important. So if you are in that if you're in that kind of phase where you are where you are basically growing from, you are growing from a basic posturing, then you realize that these things are very important and you have to commit time to it. That's it. It's just no other way. Like for example, it's a personal finance mastery class. A lot of time people feel like what I just need to do is to earn more money, work harder, do all of that. Yes, they are part of the equation, but as you grow, you get to realize that there are some principles that if you understand, is going to make that journey easier. And of course, the first thing we're trying to talk about here is that yes, while I know that a lot of us want to get rich, and I also don't mind being rich, I want to be rich, but I've also come to realize that a better thing to pursue is financial freedom, because when you're financially free, I think it's easier for you to become rich rather than become rich, because rich is like, it's difficult to know who is rich in that sense. What a lot of us just call rich is that person that has a Lamborghini, lives in a Koi, probably has a private jet. But if you understand the principles of money, it's possible for somebody to structure all of that and be living in debt. I know it was Mrs. Ibukwawushika that said recently, maybe some weeks ago, that said if some Nigerians find out that a lot of people they celebrate as very rich people are living on borrowed funds, they will really be surprised. I'm not saying everybody driving a private jet or doing all of that is living uh is Stephen, please, I will appreciate if everybody that joins you try and just mute them up immediately they join. It will really help, please. Okay. So um it's possible to live on those things and really not be under financial pressure. So that I've read this thing somewhere said the objective is not to uh to look rich. The objective is to be rich. You understand? Most of the time is about it looking rich, and people can look rich. You understand? let me give you a context. Imagine I rent a property in, let's say, Ikoyi, Parkview Estate of Banana Land, and I'm paying as high as 70 million per annum. You understand? And or maybe 50 million or 30 million per annum, 40 million. Average, let's up to the average of 50 million per annum. And another person has his house in maybe Lekki, let's say around Seku Mall, around Osapa, London, property the person bought for 250 million. You understand? To a lot of people, that guy that is paying rent, who you may not necessarily know whether the guy is paying rent, but the guy is living in Ikoyi. You understand? And he's paying 50 million rent. Versus the guy that is living in Osapa, London, that is bought his house for 250 million. For most typical Nigerians, the guy living in Ikoyi is richer. Just on face value. Just because you just want to what's context. The guy lives in Ikoyi. You don't know what's there's no science behind it, there's no analysis. And that's how being rich is. So that guy living in Ikoyi might be under pressure to pay his next house rent because he's paying every year he needs to produce 50 million for that house. You understand? He has to keep up with the Joneses. There's a minimum standard he has to keep up with. There's a minimum, of course, because he's living in Ikoyi, there's a kind of school his children have to go to because you don't want to transport your children from here down, based on the kind of school you sent your children to, there's also a minimum expectation in terms of vacation. You understand? Because that's what their peers are. There's an expectation, there's the kind of acts these schools are making. You understand? There's a kind of car you have to buy because of where you live when you drive that particular car and all of that. So we put all of that together and the person is under financial pressure. Versus somebody else who has decided to stay in maybe Osapa, London, or someone that decides to stay in Chevron and stuff. I'm just trying to explain something. That's what I'm trying to explain financial freedom. Because if you get that difference, it's going to change your objective. It's going to change how you approach it. It's going to change how you look at the dimensions of it to say, okay, so what exactly? So maybe one of the things you're going to need to do is step back today, is to tell yourself, so what am I trying to achieve? For me, financial freedom was and is very important in the sense that I really wanted to live life on my own terms. And I realized that in order to live life on my own terms, one of the things I needed to achieve was financial freedom. The moment I'm not financially free, I won't be able to live life on my own terms. I will have to have some constraint. I will not be able to make some decisions. So I needed to spend. I started working 25. Yeah, I started working at 25, and it took me 12 years to become financially free. So what I mean by it's a journey. Yeah, it's a journey because when I read the article, like when I was writing that article, I said some people might even feel like, who are you? This is going to be you're arrogant, you're proud, people don't want to. And you say you are financially free. Some people, it doesn't mean that is not what it means. I can be financially free, and another person may be richer than me. What it just means is that I have decided to put my life in a form that I've decided to be able to leave my options open. So it's about the choices I've made. You understand? The choices I've made is what is guiding what I'm doing. Sorry, there's something distracting me. So the choices I've made is what is guiding me. So you might look at another person who looks like that person is doing better, but I have to live life on my own terms. And that's one of the things you are going to understand when it comes to financial freedom. So you are going to have to have control. You're going to have to define yourself. You're going to have to, there's a lot around financial literacy. I'll do an highlight of those things we're meant to cover that will help us to get a very rounded understanding around what we're trying to do. You're going to have to understand that you're going to have to define yourself. One of the things they're going to understand in financial freedom is that you are going to define your own financial freedom. That's why I love financial freedom. When you see somebody is rich is other people must acknowledge it. Permit me to say that. You understand? When you say a man is rich, other people must acknowledge it. If other people don't acknowledge it, You understand what I mean? It's a concept. But when we talk about financial freedom, you would have to define financial freedom on your own terms. You understand? Because you have to basically be able to define some things. What do I want? What does what does financial freedom mean to me? So you're going to have to look at your lifestyle. You're going to have to look at the kind of things you want to do. You're going to have to, so you can define it, you can achieve it on your own terms. Financial freedom cuts you off from that peer pressure. That's one thing about financial freedom. It takes you off peer pressure because it's you. Shola wants to be financially free, and I define my financial freedom. So if what I've defined as my financial freedom is that I want to be able to pay my rent, you understand, in Agege. If that is what I've defined and I achieve it, you understand. So far, I have enough passive income that can pay that rent. I'm financially free because so far I'm willing to stay at that level. And that's it. What a financial freedom allows you to do is that because I realize that a lot of time, that pressure, that anxiety, it's a lot. It's drawing down on people's health, it's taking them into depression, it's getting them to do things they shouldn't do, and all of that. So they're every day trying to keep up with the Joneses. But once you define it for yourself, it takes off you off the social pressure. You tell yourself, this is what I want to do. This is it. This is my definition. So it enables you to build day by day. Are you able to tell yourself, this is what I want to be able to achieve? This is not, you understand? So you can, and that's why it's very easy for someone to say, I'm financially free. I don't need the society. For me to say I'm rich, I need people to acknowledge that you are rich. You know what I mean? Everybody says it has to be widely accepted that this person is rich. But for you to be financially free, it's my turn. It's me. I'm the one that knows I'm free. Because I know that, you understand, I can make these options, I can take this decision if I need to, because if I don't want this, I can say no to it. So very important. So what are the critical? I'll talk about a few things that forms the bedrock of this, and then maybe towards the end we'll just talk about this when I have 1 million, what I want to invest. So what are the critical aspects? The first thing that is very important in financial freedom is financial literacy. You need to be literate financially. You need to understand how money works. The challenge a lot of us is that we keep assuming that because you can be a PhD holder in finance and not understand how money works for you. You can be a banker. You might manage the money, rich people's wealth, and not be able to apply the wisdom to your own self. And it's very important. And that's what called financial literacy. Financial literacy is not just about knowing about finance or money, but financial literacy is being able to apply the principles of money to your own situation, to your own finances, to make better financial decisions for yourself. So you are not an expert. You are not a PhD holder. You understand? But you are able to know it for yourself to say, this is it. I understand what an asset is. As far as Sola Adeyinka is concerned, I know what an asset is. So when I sit down, when a banker is in front of me and he's saying, Shola, come and take a loan to buy this asset, I know whether what that person is saying is an asset or not. So I'm not carried away because the person is going to be telling me it's an asset. Your car is an asset. This is an asset. That is an asset. But because I've been able to simplify what an asset is to myself. I have that financial literacy. I know what an asset is. I understand that. I understand when you're taking a loan. I understand exactly what it means. I understand leverage. I understand what an expense is. I understand how simple interest works. I understand the difference between taking a paying getting interest monthly versus getting interest at the end of the year. I understand that if you give me a 15% interest and you pay me my interest monthly, and you give me 15% and you pay me my interest at the end of the year, I understand that they are different. Sometimes people don't have that financial literacy to understand that. Yes, they know it. They are PhD in finance. They know all the everything, but they've gotten A in that money or that business course while they were in university. But the application to their own lives, they just don't get it. They don't see it. They're not able to apply it. You understand? So you must have financial literacy. And how do you get financial literacy? You get financial literacy by consuming materials. You must understand how the stock market works. You must understand terminologies. People are talking about the stock market. You're exposing yourself to those information because at the end of the day, you see that those things are going to affect your how you build what at the end of the day, and then your mindset. A lot of us, one of the issues a lot of us have with financial freedom is that we don't understand that everybody has some mindset about money. Everybody has some mindset. And a lot of us, I've been talking to us, those of us that were growing up from, permitting to say we are not from the rich, we are from low income to average income background. A lot of us have already grown up in a scarcity environment. So we have a scarcity mindset. Our parents didn't do so well financially. Our parents didn't live in the highbrow areas of Lagos or whatever state you grew up in. You didn't go on vacation when you were kids. That's my story for you. You understand? You were just basic. Yes, you went to a government secondary, or even a government primary school, government secondary school, government university. You not like there's anything wrong in it, but whether you like it or not, there's already not enough. You've gone through the hardship, you've gone through the Abacha era where we had to use charcoal stove and all of that. You've queued at the petrol stations where there was petrol scarcity. You suffered using candle, lantern, when there was no food, where there was no light. You understand? You didn't grow up with generators. You understand what I mean? Yes, maybe you had generator, but the generator you could only put it on maybe 2 hours. You understand? And you get what I mean. We've grown up with some scarcity mindset. Sometimes that mindset does not help in creating wealth because it's limiting. You are going to have to transform that mindset. You're going to have to also the things a lot of us hear from our parents. A lot of us hear things from our parents like, don't borrow money. To them, borrowing money was just a sin. So it settled in you. You formed your mindset. You don't understand leverage. You don't understand. Some of them didn't invest in equity, they didn't invest in fixed income. So you didn't understand that concept. The kind of things you heard at the dining table was how they were struggling and everything. Yes, it created an anger in you that you're not going to turn out to be like them. But at the end of the day, a lot of us, if we're not careful, will turn out like them because that was the mindset that was formed. There was no abundance mindset. There was no mindset of I can create money. There was no mindset of I can solve the needs of people. I'll tell you something I realized for free. You see, children of the rich have something to their advantage. It's mindset. They just believe in possibilities. I'm telling you the truth. They just believe in it. Like they're looking at you and like, it's possible. Think about it. If a child grows up, and I say this thing jokingly, if a child grows up in Ikoyi, chances that child is not going to live in Ikoyi when he grows up is almost remote. Probably he's going to maybe even live abroad or live in a better Ibra, maybe live in the Atlantic or something. Because in that person's mindset, the minimum standard is Ikoyi. You can't compare that to people like us that grew up in, outskirts of Lagos. I don't want to mention some so that nobody feels offended. But it's a mindset. Yes, you needed to do something. You need to break out of something to bring yourself into that place where you can now see that possibility. Yes, you may not know it, but what you had to do was that you needed to see the possibility of it. It's even from people that just feel like it's just the normal life. They're able to see the part that you can solve problems for people. They're able to wrap their head around why a property costs this much. Because some of us, and that's why some of us, we get angry when we hear the price of some properties. What I want to tell you is that as you work towards financial freedom, while I'm not telling you to stress yourself for those properties now, you must understand that don't get angry when you hear them. But rather let the default in your mind be what makes it possible for somebody to buy a plot of land at 5 million naira per square meter. Don't let it be you taking to say, what do they mean? Are they mad? Are they normal? Are they selling it 2 million, 2.5 million, 3 million per square meter? Leave that. You understand? The question you're asking yourself is, what makes it possible? What is the possibility in their head? Why are they able to think about this and act? You understand what exactly is running in their head? And that's part of what I'm talking about, the mindset. Because without that mindset, some of these are already shut. We shut our head from it. We shut our mind from the possibility of we are not willing to embrace it. And there's a way the mind works. The mind works with the law of attraction. For me, I have one funny thing I do. If I desire a car and I'm in traffic and that car wants to chance me, I will always allow that car. Because I just want to have that opportunity to say, look at this car. This is a nice car. Come on. Some of us are like, no, thieves, I'm only. I'm not saying that some of them did not steal it, but are you also saying that everybody who is using a nice thing has stolen? Then if everybody who is using a nice thing is a thief, then why are you desiring? Do you want to be a thief? You don't want to be a thief, so why are you desiring it? Just don't desire it. in the first place. So you realize at the end of the day that mindset, and we have to work on our mindsets. How do we expose we need to give our mindset the right exposure, the right network. And that's why you see some people, it might be a friend, you understand? It might be a rich friend that just helps them to see that possibility. You go to some houses, you just look at the house, you're like, wow, how can somebody's house be this? Like, how? You understand? And it expands your horizon. It shows you that something is, it's possible. It's just like for those of you that have gone abroad, the first time you go abroad, there's just this possibility. It's just like, wow, how you mean that this is possible? You understand? Yes, you watch it in movies, you've seen it, but it's different. You're in that environment. You're like, look at this. They're human beings. They're not like that. They don't have 2 heads. They don't have 10 heads. They're just normal so that they're able to create their country like this. It shows that possibilities. It inspires. It shows what, and that is it. So our mindset is very important. And then our ability, that financial literacy, that ability to open up ourselves to the right information. You understand? The books, the right books, the materials, the kind of people we are following, how we just consistently tweak that to ensure we have. So you are going to realize that one of your greatest investments for those of us that are rising, permit me to say, from the low income, average income families in Nigeria, one of your greatest investments is going to be what you know. You have to invest in your financial literacy. You have to invest in your financial literacy. You have to see it as an investment, especially if you are below 30 in your mid 30s. Invest in it. The result, in fact, invest a lot in it because you are going to realize that you need to change your mindset. There are a lot of mindsets, a lot of us, are growing up with that is not going to help us to build wealth. It's going to set up, we're going to get to a point, it just caps that possibility. You can't understand why people buy artworks of 20 million. You are like, are you people all right? You put artwork. I have a friend that the artwork in his house is more than the value of the house. And I'm telling you, the artwork in the house is more than the value of the house. So the artwork, the insurance on the artwork on the house is actually more than the insurance on the house itself. And you're like, oh, does it make sense? It's not just artwork. What's the big deal about artwork? It's artwork. So what's just leave it. You understand? I remember somebody teaching me. I remember something I listened to somewhere. He said, "The rich buy experience, the poor buy products, buy goods and services." There's just philosophy. I'm telling you, it's just different. It's different. When the rich want to go on vacation, they don't go on they don't go to when the permit me there's something when I started my career, there's this joke we used to joke. I tell people that there's difference between leave, vacation, and holiday. Someone will say, so what's the difference between leave? And this is just a joke, please don't quote me. Leave is when you are working and you just take a leave. You are sleeping in your house. You understand? There's nowhere to go. Maybe you work in Lagos, you decide to go to Henry Jesha, Waterfall. That's leave. You just took leave. You are resting in your house, or you're just vacation is when you go to maybe London, Dubai, London, Dubai, America, Houston, Atlanta. And then one of the things you see when people go on vacation is, you understand, when they are coming back, they have plenty boxes, they'll go to shopping. If you're in London, they go to Oxford Street, Central London, do a lot of shopping. They'll go to Macy's, they'll go to H&M, UTM, they will just be going everywhere, buying plenty things. And when they are come, but he said the pinnacle is when people go on holiday. The people that go on holiday, they go to places where, some of the time you're just so they tell you, I went to Malaga in Spain. You're like, what happens in Malaga in Spain? They tell you, I went to Seychelles. You're like, oh, but you go shopping. You say, I went to, you understand what I mean? They go to places. I went to Venice in Italy. They don't have family member, they don't have an auntie or uncle that goes to, in Nigeria sometimes we can go on vacation to places where we have an auntie or uncle where we can sleep. Even there, where you're in the house, you are managing the power. We've all gone through those things. You don't like before somebody feels like I'm using too much power, but you can go on holiday, rent a place, whatever you like. It's your money you're going to pay. When you live there, you can take a vacation home, you can do whatever you like, you understand, and just enjoy yourself. You're not somebody, you're not reading power bill on anybody. You're not reading, you're not, when you're coming back, you're not buying shoe and say, this is the shoe I bought for Uncle Lagbaja, this is the bag I bought for Auntie this is the, and they come and say, what did you bring for us? I'm like, I don't know what you people are talking about. I went on holiday. I went to enjoy my life. You want me to now add that pressure to my life? I bought this, I bought that, and now come, you take that's vacation. You understand? And it's faces, but that's just on just trying to tell you how sometimes the difference, how people can move in terms of the mindsets and how they actually apply things and stuff. You know, so you are going to have to do a lot of work on your mindsets. It's going to be a lot of investment. So I'm sure you can already. Holiday is the way to go. I like that Singapore said it. Yes, that's it too. That's sometimes there's some places I could go and like what like I don't know what you're talking about. I went to enjoy my life. So when you think that I have to still now carry things, this and this and this for everybody, please, if you get to if you want to buy things, you can buy it whenever you okay. So let's talk about the second thing. We talked about mindset and financial education. Then we talk about growing active income. Now, I talked about the fact that we have to grow our active income. If you're growing up from low income or middle income background, what you're going to have to do is you start with your active income. Remember that you are not DJ Kupi. You understand? You are not Anima Dangote. You understand? You are not Temi Otedola. You know who you are. You know who your parents are. So you are not a nepo baby. You didn't grow up with a trust fund. So what do? You start with your active income. You have a skill. You have an education. That is where you're going to start from. That is the springboard. So you have to understand that how do I capitalize on my active income? So that's why you have to sharpen your skills very well. You have to sharpen what you know very well. You have to get certifications. And I will tell you my own story. You understand? Because it's easier for people to miss this when I told you that it took me, I worked for 12 years. I worked around businesses for 12 years. Because some people even think that when you have a business, yes, even after I started a business and operated businesses for almost 7 years before I became financially free. And even having a business and being financially free are two different things. That's no for another day. You will be shocked. Like, I can have a business and you're not financially free. Trust me. So what am I trying to say? When I started my career, what are the things I did? I focused first. When I was in university, I did NIMN, National Institute of Marketing Nigeria. I became a chartered marketer. When I was in university, I started my ACCA. By the time I was finishing NYSC, I was already I already had my ACCA. I did my CFA when I started working. What was I doing? Because I needed to do what I called. I need to say something. Just a second. I needed to grow my active income. I need to put myself in this place where I sharpen my skill so much that I could max out on my active income. So that's what makes you to be a great banker. That's what makes you to be a good doctor. That's what makes you to be a fantastic lawyer. That's what makes you to be a great fashion designer. That's what makes you to be an exceptional organizer. That's what makes you be a great mechanic. You are trying to grow your active income. You're saying, see, I'm the one making this money. The skill sets, you understand, the relationship. So you need to capitalize. To grow your active income, you need to sharpen your skills. You need to grow your network of relationships. So what I was doing at that point was that I was sharpening my relationship skills, building my relationship, meeting this person. I know this person. I know that person. What's this person doing? That's where you are very active on LinkedIn. You are creating relationships at your place of work. You people you left university with, you're staying in touch with them. You are knowing where people are doing. You are growing your active income. That active income is that income that you yourself are building. You are working on it yourself. And you are making it. You are making that money. So you need to grow that active income. You need to max out your active income. A lot of time, it is easier to build because your initial savings that you're going to use to go and build your passive income most likely will come from your active income. And that's what I did. So those jobs, when I became a chartered accountant, when I became a CFA charter holder, when I became a chartered marketer, when I went for professional courses at London Business School, when I went for professional courses at Lagos Business School, what I was doing was sharpening my skill. When I was reading this material, getting on this, reading this, what I was doing was I was trying to sharpen, grow that active income. So please don't take it for granted, because some guy I'm thinking and say, they say we should build business. You must, if that is what you have with you today, you must build it. Because I've told you, when you're building active income, you're building relationships, you're building networks, you're doing all of that, you're sharpening, and you're also learning how a business works. Now, then you move from that active income, you now start saying that excess money. When you're building your active income, one of the things you need to tell yourself is that I earn this amount of money. There are two ways, I tell people there are two ways to have excess money. Is either you grow your income or you reduce your expense. You know, when you're doing active income, you're earning a salary or you're earning an income and your expenses are there. So what you need to do is you need to keep your expenses low, but there's only so low you can keep your expenses. You need to also increase your income. You need to increase your earning capacity. Of course, apart from working on a salary, you can start side gigs. You know what? My own side gigs, I started selling books. I know that was the university. I started selling cars. My side was I started selling cars. You know, I started doing money, lending people money on the side while I was doing what I was doing. I started doing trade, buying and selling FX on the side. So I was growing my active income. I was the one building income, but I also kept my expenses low. I kept my expenses low. I tell you, my first 7 years of marriage, I lived in the same house. From 2012, when we got married, to 2019, I lived in the same house. And I paid the same house rent. Luckily, my house rent, my landlord did not increase my rent. 500,000 naira. I paid that same amount. Why? Because what I was doing was that I was keeping my expenses at a particular pace. And I was building. In fact, it was so funny because I used to tell people that my income grew from maybe 300,000 to maybe 2 million. No, okay, my oil and gas job maybe 1.5. But I stayed in the same house. I used the same car. Yes, that's another interesting thing. Two interesting things. I stayed okay, I think I changed my car maybe towards towards after the first 4 years. But the first 4 years of Yasan, I was using the same car. Even though my income went like times five, I did not increase my expense. You remember that I was already building my active income. I was writing solid professional exams. I was being competent. I was building the right relationship. I was putting in the hard work in my employment. I got in a double promotion. I was at the cutting edge of my career. But I was also capping my expenses because what I was trying to do was that I needed to create that differential. I needed my income, my active income to be more than my expenses, which is why I told you that it's science. What you understand is usually that it is easy. So that excess, keeping all those things apart. Those days, yes, I traveled. I went for maybe honeymoon when I got married. My trips abroad at that time was basically to have my babies. You understand? Because I wanted them to have a second passport and all of that. So, but those are the basic things I planned towards. But apart from that, those other things, I just kept them at the same level. I kept my car. My car was basic car. In fact, I will tell you that by the time I was leaving that house I rented, I had built the house I want. I had built my first house and I had another property. So I had invested. So while I kept when I kept my expenses low, I was investing in other things. I was putting my money in other things, investing in the business and all of that. So after that, what I now did was okay, now you built this active income. Your active income is then I built a business. A business is still an active income because I'm the one working the business. But as I built that, I will continue keeping my expense low so that I was having excess. When I was having excess, that was when I now begin to put money in the stock market. I don't need to work when I buy stock. That's when I need to buy euro bonds. That's when I invest in fixed income, mutual funds, and all of that. I don't work. When I buy a property and I put the property on rent, I don't need to work. Whether I sleep or I wake up, so far somebody is in my property, I can give it to an agent to run it for me. Every year they pay me my rent. You understand? So that was what I'll be doing. So that excess money, by keeping your expenses capped and building more income, what I've been able to do is that allows me to push in some more money into my passive income. My passive income are, for me, the passive incomes I built were like houses I bought and built or put on rent. They were stocks I bought that were paying me dividends. They were fixed income investment, Eurobond investment that I bought, and they just pay me my coupon. I sleep, I look at you, whatever you like. But I kept those things constant. And that's when you want to be, it will help you to keep, okay, how do I keep my expenses constant? So a lot of your friends may be changing cars, you will not change your car. Because what you are just trying to do, you're just trying to get financial freedom. So like, instead of me buying that car, you understand? Let me build the money. It does understand. And everybody loves, like which I will talk about later on, delayed gratification. It's all about delaying gratification. And like I talked about, it's not foregone gratification. Like for example, I love some kind of watches. Some of those watches cost money. Cost money that I even mentioned some people but you can build your passive income to a point where you buy luxury. For me, I have a rule: buy luxury from passive income. Don't buy luxury from active income. So it was a rule I set for myself. I'm not going to buy any luxury from active income. So even if you finish you buying any luxurious item, I'm buying those luxurious item from my passive income, because the plan is first build my passive income. From the passive income, then fall luxury. In fact, if you can take that as a formula today, especially if you are young, it will save a lot of problems. A lot of luxury items people want to buy. People want to buy the latest iPhone 17. They want to buy a Rolex wristwatch. They want to buy a Cartier wristwatch. They want to buy a Ferragamo shoe. They want to buy a Gucci shoe. They want to do all those things. Build your life. Say, yes, I want to buy these things. But let me build and that, you can now see the reason why I said these things are easier when you start early. Yeah, they are easier when you start early, because when you start early, by the time you're in your 40s, 50s, your active income, your passive income is not building those monies. You understand? So you're able to now enjoy those things. Buy luxury from passive income. A lot of things that people are saying we want to, from active income, basics. Take your excess. So delay gratification. Take that excess you have, put it in building passive income. Then what you get from the passive income, you can use it to get it. Because yes, very much, it's easier when you start early, because when you start early, it's easier to delay gratification, the pressure. Like for example, I'll give you simple stories, patterns of me. My second baby did not start school until she was 5. The first time my second daughter my second child went to university, went to school, was when she was starting grade 1, which is what we call primary 1, year 1. You understand? Because we're living in a place where school fees was a lot of money. But I was building income. My third child went to school probably at 2 years plus, because at that phase, I'm just trying to explain the power of starting early. There are some things also, especially also when you get married, your spouse needs to understand this thing. The good thing I had was that because I started early, I had the advantage of already schooling my spouse in this thing for years. So there's a way I'm also on the same page. In fact, let me tell you the truth. The one of the challenge a lot of people realize that if your spouse is not on the same page with you on these things, or these things are not possible. Let me just tell you the honest truth. They're not saying Shola is telling us something. If your spouse is not on the same page with you on this thing, it's tougher. You understand? Because you cannot be telling your spouse you are delaying gratification when your spouse is seeing money. You understand? And you're saying you are building particle. So your spouse must be on the same page with you. So some of you are going to have to bring your spouse to personal finance mastery, because your spouse doesn't get it. You are just going to be having conflict in your marriage. You say, what are we doing? You have 50 million. Why are we not going on vacation? You say, I'm bidding passive income. You say, passive what? Cost passive income. You say, you just be having conflicts in your life. You understand? So you have to, and that's one of the things, I'm just being honest with you. It was some of the things that helped me a lot. I started practicing this thing early. My wife could see it. I could explain it to her. She got the concept, you understand, of why I was doing what I was doing. You understand? And also, as we were climbing up, I also made sure that there were some things we were not enjoying before she could now enjoy. So she could see that, oh, okay, this is what we are working towards. If you don't carry your spouse along, I'm telling you, you're going. In fact, I disclaim you because I don't want your spouse to miss me and say, hey, this is the guy causing wahala in our marriage. I don't want to. I beg you. You understand? But and you have to take time. Depending on the kind of background they came up from, you have to. So, in fact, if you are not yet married, if you're in a relationship, I want to advise you, begin to have these conversations. You understand? It's going to work easier. You're having discussions, you are sharing it. There are times you will have to make some compromise too. We're going to say, okay, I would have wanted to build this. Probably it will have taken you 10 years. You understand? But because you have a spouse who you need to carry along, make it 15 years. Your peace is better than financial freedom. Because if you have financial freedom and you have the wrath of your spouse, my hand, they there. So it's something you have to look at holistically. You have to get it. It's a project. You work on it. It's like you deciding how many kids you're going to have. You understand? It's conversations, and then your spouse must see it, must see the journey. There's some things I might tell my spouse today, she's going to get it because she's going to like, oh, this is what Shola has practiced for the last 14 years. I've seen it. I've seen that, when this thing also comes, I'm saying that I'm going to be the beneficiary. We're going to benefit from it together and all of that. So it's easier. So start early. That's basically the point there. Okay. We need to, let me just talk about the two other points. Then I talked about inflation. You have to understand inflation. The problem with a lot of people is that you also have to understand the economy in which you are building wealth. For example, a lot of people underplay inflation devaluation. You can't do this journey without understanding inflation and devaluation in Nigeria. You are in an economy where inflation is crazy, devaluation is happening. And for me, one of the things that helped me to, because I understood this also, I put a number of my assets in foreign currencies because I understood the devaluation was going to happen. So it didn't allow me, I didn't put a lot of my wealth in naira denominated assets. Because if you put all your wealth in naira denominated assets, I can tell you, you are running against the tide. Yeah, I'm telling you, you don't want to be. Imagine you have 10 million. Your 10 million, you invested it has become 30 million. But it has become 30 million after 2 years, and you realize that even what you could have bought for 10 million, your 30 million cannot buy it. So you've done all the activity. Do you understand? But it has not shown, and you are worse off. And a lot of us seen how that has happened. Imagine people that did not buy car when car was maybe when the Corolla was 2.5 million, you didn't buy the Corolla. You saved your 2.5 million, you delayed gratification. You said so last time we should delay gratification, you delayed the gratification. Your 2.5 million you have used to buy Corolla, you didn't buy Corolla, you invested it. Your 2.5 became 5 million after 2-3 years. Then your 5 million cannot buy you the same Corolla. They now do the same Corolla. It's now 6 million, it's now 7 million. You're like, what's happening here? You understand? Because you did not understand inflation. You don't understand devaluation. You have to understand that we're an import-dependent economy. So as you build wealth, because you understand this, you begin to put some of your assets in assets that are a edge against inflation. And that's one of the reasons why investing in the business is important. You can see those that have the businesses over the last 2 years. See what everybody has done. They increase their prices. Your barber increased their price. Your hairdresser increased their price. Even organizer increased price. Mechanic, tailor, you understand? Dangote increased price of cement. Gala increased price. Coca-Cola increased price. 7-Up increased, because they're in the business. So they're increasing their price to match up inflation. So if all your assets, you are building all your assets in things that you cannot increase price, you cannot serve as an edge, you need to rethink about it. So I'll talk about it maybe more in my writing, but you have to understand how inflation and devaluation applies. And you have to begin to invest and say, oh, so you mean that this inflation, I can tell you, you have to understand the cycles, how inflation happens. Then leverage. Leverage is debt. A lot of people don't understand that they're going to use debt. You have to understand how you can use debt to move your in an economy where inflation is high, you must use debt to your advantage. That's the total event. I know some of you don't believe in debt, but I don't really want to talk about that. Then we talk about discipline. Discipline and long-term focus, which is what we call, you have to be disciplined. You have to have that long-term focus. This is what I want to build over the long term. And this is how I want to get there. You must be disciplined because a lot of things are going to get you derailed. Like I said, you must be disciplined, you must be committed to your vision. This is what I want to achieve. This is how I'm going to get there. Step by step, each day, you must make that move. You must make that, you understand? You are working towards it. Some things will derail you, but you're going to go back and say, oh, no, I'm not going to allow myself get derailed. You're going to go back, you're going to sit down, you're going to build it again. A lot of things will happen that will shake you. Things will happen. You're going to make losses. You understand? Then you're going to have a bad year. You can even have had bad years. I've had years where I lost money, things happened to me, but you are disciplined. You're getting yourself back on track. You're like, this is why I started this thing. This is where we're going to. You get back on it. Because every year you are getting more empowered. You're getting more strengthened. You understand it better. You know exactly why you're doing what you're doing. So you're able to get yourself back on track. And the more you get yourself back on track, you realize that it is actually easier it's easier. So you have to have the discipline, you have to have the delayed gratification. You're telling yourself, this is my plan, this is exactly what I'm going to achieve. So based on this, you can see what forms the whole fulcrum of financial freedom. I just did a quick summary for us. I hope that some of these things I've taught now, I'll be able to put them into short articles that I'm going to share. You can see that it's something. So once you wrap your head, it's demystified. Because the reason why a lot of people are living under financial pressure is that they're living in fear. It's fear. They don't understand it. So they don't get it. They're like, this pressure, this. But you get your point. Like, so for me, you are able to live life on your own terms. You're able to have that peace of mind. You're able to, because the moment you understand something, the moment you have light about something, it demystifies it. A lot of us need to demystify the subject of wealth. We need to demystify prosperity. We need to demystify it. The more you demystify it, you are not agitated. You're able to say, okay, this is why I've invested in this asset. This is why I've invested in this asset. This is why I've done this investment. This is why I've done this. And you see that it summarizes it. So that's it on financial freedom. I think I'll just talk a bit. The number of people have been saying, okay, let's talk about just a quick addendum to the people that say, okay, so what do I start? You can see that why the financial freedom is the whole package. But let me just talk about people that say, okay, I have 1 million. What do I need to invest? I know what can I invest in today's economy? I've told you, please invest a lot in your knowledge. Invest in knowledge. Yes, if I say, I say I have 1 million, I say I should invest in knowledge. Invest in knowledge. If you don't have knowledge, you will lose that 1 million. I'm telling you, it may have lost money very well. So I know how it happen. That 1 million, I say go and buy 50K, you know, go buy them. You understand? Go and buy my trader 50K, you won't buy. Say, no, I want to invest my own 1 million. Invest your own 1 million and you lose your own 1 million. You understand? So you have to invest in knowledge. I think I also talked about the fact that people should look for businesses. If you have a side gig you can do, it's something I encourage a lot of young people to do because it teaches you about money. Running a business, a side business, it might be just something you're doing on the side. It teaches you about money. You say, oh, this is the wisdom. Because even later on, when you want to start investing in other people, you can understand businesses that work and business that does not work because you just get it, you see it. So I'm encouraging people that, okay, if you can put a quarter of it, 250,000 out of it, look for a business, a friend's business, someone you trust, but please make sure you have agreement. Make sure there's clarity. Don't just be blind about it. You understand? But if you don't have clarity about it, it's not also every time. One of the things in building wealth is that it's not activity. It's not activity that makes people rich. It's light. So if you don't have the right light, in fact, keeping your money in the bank, looking at it might be better. Because you say, the money will devalue. Let it devalue. At least when it devalues, when you get there, you meet something. Versus you put it in something that at the end of the day, you are worse off. You now lose this, you do everything, you lose your money, you lose your friend. So let's have that culture. Don't let's have that culture of I must do something. Let's understand that there's also that timing to incubate and just say, what are you doing? I'm learning, I'm developing myself, I'm building my savings, but I'm reading up things, I'm checking out things. When you now begin to say, okay, this is the opportunity I can put and use mentors. One of the things you have access on this page is that you can reach out and say, I want to actually a question. You can pose the question, you can say, okay, you send it to Modupe, reach out to me. I'll answer the question. This is what I'm trying to do. I have this 1 million. This opportunity has come to me. This person said I should give him this. What should I ask for? We'll give it to you for free. Yeah, so what we do on this page, we don't charge you money, not because it's not valuable, but it's just not the assignment the Lord has given to us. You understand? But you come, I want to do this thing, this. We'll give you, okay, do this, check up on this, write this agreement. Do you have this? Do you have this and this? And then we can say, okay, go ahead with it. So with that will help you to do. Then of course, invest in assets that are passive. You don't have to do anything. The stock market, although the stock market has boomed, the stock market is still going to boom, but people must also understand that the stock market operates in cycles. So you must have that patience. I was explaining to somebody how much we made in the stock market in the last 18 months. It's a lot of money, but it's required patience. There were times we had to wait. There were times we had to take losses. We just had to stay in it. You understand? So don't invest money you want to use to pay for your school fees or your children's school fees in the stock market, because it might be the day you want to remove it that the stock market is down and you're not willing to wait without that cycle. You understand? So there's a lot of knowledge required there. So I think I'll take question and answer. I know there's work tomorrow, so I want to keep it very. It's not about how much time we spend. So if there are no questions, I think it would be a good time to call it a day. So I hand over to Modupe. If there are questions, I answer. If there are no questions, over to you, Modupe.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Thank you. That was a good one. We'll be making the recording available to every one of us, and we'll also be keeping the group open for some time to allow more people to join and also learn from all of these things that are being shared. So I think so far we have, oh, Dr. Idowu has his hand up. So Dr. Idowu, please go ahead. Keep it short, please. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Good evening, sir. Thank you very much. I've learned a lot and I've been taking notes. So my question, I've always been interested in that is dollar denominated assets, precisely investing offshore, but it always looks hazy. I've checked bamboo, I've checked cowrywise dollar denominated this and all those stuff, and I'm still skeptical. Like if I put my money on that, does it count? Is it not still within the economy? Because if anything happens to Nigeria, it will affect those businesses, for instance. So how can I really take my money out of Nigeria, probably to the US or the Europe, and at least start? Thank you, sir. Over.
Okay, so in terms of investing in dollar denominated assets, you can invest dollar denominated assets in Nigeria. A number of asset management companies in Nigeria operate dollar denominated instruments. So yes, the economy is Nigeria's. Those companies will end up paying you your dollars back, no matter what happens. You understand? So that's what it does for you, is that you are still investing in the Nigeria economy, but those assets are in dollar, they are dollarized. So asset management companies have it. Cornerstone Capital has dollar denominated funds. United Capital, Stanbic, a lot of them. And then if you want to invest outside of Nigeria through apps like Bamboo and Trove, you can actually invest. Yes, they are serving as middlemen, you understand, and investing in those assets, you understand, but you will still invest in dollar denominated assets. So the only risk you are suffering there is so far those platforms do what they said they will do, your money will be hedged in dollar. Then maybe as your portfolio now grows, you can now work at that point, of course, on having an account, a portfolio account yourself, but you must have a lot of dollar assets at that point for them to be winning. Because even Nigeria says Nigeria, what we call the Nigeria government Euro bonds, you understand, which we buy as a company where we invest. We buy Nigeria government, we borrow Nigeria government dollars, and they pay us back in dollars because Nigeria has oil. You know, they will always pay back the dollar, and in the devaluation, people will suffer in naira. So think about it this way. You know, there's this illustration I tell a lot of people. In 2015, you had a billion naira. In 2015, dollar was below 200. So let's even say dollar rose to 200 in 2015. That your 200 will have given you $5 million. Even if you earn 5% on that money every year, 5% will have given you how much? 5% on $5 million will have given you $250,000, right? Because 10% will have given you 500,000. So 250,000 for 10 years, you're going to have 2.5 million. 2.5 million plus your $5 million, you're going to have $7.5 million today. I'm not even compounding. You know, I should have compounded, but I didn't compound. Versus you invested at your 1 billion in the Nigeria market. That 1 billion, they also give you maybe 20% every year. You understand? 20% every year will have given you, or 5 million will have given you 1 million, right? 20% of 1 billion to 200 million. 200 million times 10 years, 2 billion. 2 billion plus 1 billion, 3 billion. Your 3 billion, divide 3 billion by 1,500. You have less than $2 million, or about just over $2 million. So the same amount of money, different decision. One person has $7.5 million, another person has about $2 or $3 million. You understand? So it's sometimes, because you're in an emerging economy, devaluation will always happen. You can be rest assured about that. Yes, the government will try to curtail it and all of that, but it's an inflation problem. Inflation in Nigeria is at double digits. Inflation in the US is at single digits. Those of you that are accountants and finance people, there's something called the purchasing parity theorem. You understand? It has to adjust for each other. It can't just stay like that. You can't expect that because dollar is 1.5 to gain today, inflation will always make it after a few years. They will always have to match up for it. So it's a problem you are going to suffer so far you're in the emerging economy. And the earlier you prepare for it in your world building plan, the better for you.
Wow, great. Thank you very much for that. So we have Japhet as well. Japhet, please, you can go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, sir. Thank you very much, sir. So I want to ask a question. Sir, you talked about how you built your income, your active income, by taking certifications, and so you've done CFA, ACCA, and all those things. And at the start of your career, you built and you were able to like give more value to the market, and your income rose. So for me now, I'm a pharmacist. I just graduated from school, and I'm looking at I've been exploring the whole healthcare industry, and it's looking like there's no that career path of, okay, there's no the certifications in, okay, if I take this certification, I'm going to boost in my, so as a pharmacist, what's open for me? Okay, I can start my own business and all, but it's the salary is kind of capped across the industry. So maybe like 300K, even for people that are done with NYSC, So I was asking somebody recently that, is there not anywhere they pay more, but you have to like work for like many years, you have to go to all these companies, be their rep and all those things. But I want to ask that, what is your advice to someone in that kind of industry where the salary is kind of capped in a way? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Japhet. I understand what you're saying. What are two things I would say to a young person starting his career? Maybe three things. Number one is take a long-term perspective. Look at how the pharmaceutical market is going to evolve over the next few years. If that is where you want to stay, look at the pharmaceutical industry, look at where the industry is coming from, and look at where it is going, and consider that in every decision you are taking. So be able to have some projection into the future to say, how will the pharmaceutical industry evolve in Nigeria? That's one. Number two is, even as you look at your career, be able to make decisions that would give you a lot of training. A lot of training. In the early part of your career, first 2-3 years of your career, focus more on the training part. So even if you have to say, okay, who are the highest payers in this industry? And what kind of training, either I can get to those places now, or what kind of training will I give myself that will allow me to get there? So if you have a job that is not paying so much, but is going to give you the training that you need in those places, take it. The third thing I will tell you to pay attention to is relationships. I'm telling you the truth, and I'm telling you, over the last 4 years, 8 years, and as we go into the elections circle, just start realizing that a number of people in political positions are now in my circle of influence. And these are people I met 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you understand? Which is also pushing me to invest a lot of my time today in relationship building. So you can imagine, this commissioner is someone this minister is someone it's just appearing each day. Maybe it's also just because I'm getting older, but I'm looking back and I'm saying, this person that is now having this political position, or this MD, CEO, when did I meet the person? I'm looking at, okay, I met the person 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So I'm like, okay, so the people I'm meeting today are the people that will also call the shots in the next 10, 15 years. So what you have to pick a career, you have to also get that. Don't take a career that allows you to build a lot of relationships. Relationships that will define your industry in the future, where the movers and shakers of the industry will be. One of the things I got privileged to have is working in a place like KPMG. I started my career in Accenture and KPMG. I can tell you, a lot of people have grown from that place to be, and there are people that we have something in common. I met them in their very early days. I can walk to them today and they're like, it's like old pals, old friends. So I'll tell you to focus on those three things. Even there are no professional exams, look at the cutting edge, stay at the cutting edge of your industry. What's AI today? You guys are having a lot of conversation around AI, how technology is changing, how things are being done. Visibility is becoming a key matter in your generation. In my own generation, you can become rich without being visible. You understand? In your own generation, it looks like it's more of the order of the day. Perception looks more, is having a greater percentage the things you need for success than content only. My own generation just have your quality, even nobody knows you. But today you're seeing that in this world of content creator, in the world of influencers and all of that, visibility is now a critical part. So build visibility, look at the critical things that is moving the market in the future, and position yourself for it. That's what I'll tell you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, sir, for that. So, in the absence of no other question, I think we can wrap this up and call it a day. Okay, Mr. Shion, you're gonna be the last person asking a question today.
Yes.
Yeah, even if that person has a question, you can leave it on the group. We'll attend to it from there.
Yes, please.
All right.
So, Mr. Shion, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Yes, you said something about debt being an advantage in this kind of environment. Yes, do you want to shed more light, sir?
Yeah, okay. Why I say debt is an advantage in this kind of environment is the fact that a lot of people need to understand that some of us, we need other people's money to build wealth. It's something I leverage also on. You don't have to always think about only what you have. Yes, I know debt is a leverage. Debt can also be risky. But the moment you have great understanding of what you are doing, a better understanding structure, focus, don't limit yourself to only your own capital. Be able to expand your horizon of what you are doing to other people's capital. You understand? And be able to take debts, and be able to, because you're also in an high inflation economy, don't use debt to say you can take debts to expand what you're doing. So it's about other people's money, other people's time. I hope one of these I can share about those things. You have to take other people's money to move your vision forward. But if you are so scared to say, no, I can't touch other people's money, or is only what my business is going to be able to do, you're going to stay small. Even Dangote, to build Dangote refinery, you have to borrow money. You have to take other people's money. You understand? But what he was building was of bigger value. So, of course, he leveraged other people's money and built something bigger. And today, with the US-Iran crisis, he has turned out to be maybe even the savior for Africa. Because everybody now knows that whatever people taking is happening as Strait of Hormuz. This one, we have refinery in Africa, we have our crude oil in Africa, we'll sort ourselves. You understand? So it's important people begin to leverage that, begin to look at, okay, I need to understand debt. How do I use debt? Because a lot of people are afraid of debt. They don't even touch it. They don't even listen to it. Someone like me, there's something I always do in my business. I use overdraft a lot. Overdraft is, I take a loan from the bank, but I have an agreement with the bank that if I pay before the end of the day, I won't pay any interest for it. So let me tell you what it means. It looks funny, but that's what it is. It means I can take money in the morning, use it during the day. If I can find a way to pay it back before 12 midnight, I'm not going to have to pay any interest on it. Because of the kind of business I run, that was a more logical thing for me than to go and take what we call term loan. So I have overdrafts with the bank. So I take overdraft in the bank, use some assets to collateralize it, and use it for transaction. It's something that works for me. But because I understand it, rather than stay with and say, no, I don't touch debt, I don't do that. Yeah. Okay, well, I don't want to go against some people that believe that, but debt can actually be, especially good debt. There's something we call good debt, and that's why debt is also called leverage. What's leverage? Leverage is what helps you to achieve more with less. You understand? And that's why one of the financial terms for debt is leverage. You understand? So it helps you to achieve more with less. Of course, it can also amplify your losses if you don't know what you're doing. But I believe that when you understand that, which is one of the things we talk about when I write the article, is how to use debt. How do I get the right information? Inflation. Imagine I borrowed. If people, you can borrow in an high inflation economy, you can borrow naira, do FX-related transaction, and even make more money at the end of the day, rather than not borrow anything and just leave things at the table. Look at how the price of cars increased over the last maybe from 2022 to 2024. People that borrowed money in 2022 to buy their car were better off than people that were saving their money to buy it in 2024. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. So that's how leverage could actually work for you. Thank you very much.